And we meet every Wednesday from 10 until 11 and do some networking as well. And so please enjoy a cup of Dunkin' Donuts, which is our sponsor, has been for going on 3 years now. So I would like to introduce Keith Wood, and he's going to tell us about commercial insurance summary. So Keith, I'm going to turn things over to you.
Great, thanks. So I'm Keith Wood, and this is Joe Frankovich. We're with the Chisholm Insurance Group. Joe's been doing this for 25 years, a lot longer than I have, so he's going to actually handle the bulk of the presentation. But today we're going to talk to you guys about market conditions in insurance and kind of why some of the things that you see happening in the industry are happening and some of the information behind it. But before we get into that, let's go ahead and name some industries that you guys are working in the crowd today.
Network marketing.
Okay. This will just help us gear things towards you a little bit better as the presentation goes on. So we got network marketing. Any others?
Nutrition.
Real estate.
Okay. Get a few more.
Manufacturing.
Banking, right? Let's get two more.
Restoration.
Okay. Who's got the last one? Be anything.
Legal services.
Legal services, okay. All right, so this will help give us a little bit of a framework for the rest of the presentation. But Joe's going to get into some of those market conditions and explain to you why you see some of the trends that are going on in the insurance industry.
Great, thanks, Keith. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah.
Great, okay. The reason Keith opened it up with some of the industries is because every business segment has to have insurance. You have to buy it, you need it. Nobody wants to buy it. A lot of people don't care. They just grab the policy, throw it in their in their desk drawer, and they move forward. What we wanted to do today is kind of customize a little bit of our presentation around some of your industries that you're working in now, and then give you some free consultative advice on some things to be aware of that's out there in the marketplace. Do we have any other insurance people out here at all? P&C or life or P&C?
Commercial.
Okay.
Life.
Okay, this is going to be, pretty mundane for you guys, but just bear with us a little bit. We do have a trivia question, so you guys can jump in on that. I don't want to give that trivia question to you too early either, because you'll be Googling it, and we'll have 20 winners, and we only have one gift card, right, Keith?
That's right.
All right. So how about a good, 45 minutes of some robust insurance conversation? Just get you guys all fired up today, okay? All right, the first thing we want to talk about is market conditions. Does everybody here either own a company or involved in a company that has to purchase insurance of some sort, property casualty or whatever the case may be? Okay, what is going on in the marketplace is what we want to share with you guys now. Insurance is very cyclical in the way that the rates go up and down, and there's a lot of things that drive those rates up and down. And so we just want to give you some knowledge of what happens. And sometimes you may say, well, why am I getting a rate increase? Or, why can't I ever get a decrease in my premiums? And we want to share some of that information with you right now. As of June, because July's not out yet, as of June 2016, the average rates for all commercial insurance policies is down 1%. And it doesn't seem like a whole lot. A few years ago, like 6, it was down 13%. And then you started to see it go flat, up 5, up 7, and now it's on its way back down. So it's a real cyclical thing driven by a number of items. In the property world, which we're going to talk a little bit about property insurance today, those rates are down 2% right now. A few years ago, they were up 5%. And the reason they're down 2% is basically because we really just haven't had that much storm activity in the last 2 years. If you think about it, Florida hasn't been hit by a hurricane in 14 years. So those rates down in Florida, which, back in 15, 20 years ago were just out of control. Now they're coming down as the insurance companies are making money, on the property side with the wind damage out there. Here in Ohio, very temperate temperate climate. We don't see a whole lot of activity. If it's a hailstorm, it's in one suburb generally. It's not widespread. So what we're seeing now is, rates that are going down 2%. Obviously, if you're negotiating your insurance renewals with your agent or your broker and you're seeing large rate increases, it's probably something that you did, not the insurance companies did, and that would be a claim, or the building has deteriorated or something to that extent. Underwriting conditions came into play. So basically, that's where the property side of things are hitting right now. On the liability side, the rates are flat. And the reason those are flat is the underwriters have spent the last 3 to 4 years heavily underwriting a couple things that you guys deal with in your business world every single day, and that's contract and risk transfer. Every contract you sign, from the janitorial person who comes in to clean your offices, or if you're doing restoration and you subcontract out to somebody else, that type of stuff, they are all over us as agents and brokers to be all over you about risk transfer, transferring your risk away from yourself and down to others that work for you. If you all work, or if any of you work for a company much larger than yourself and you are the subcontractor, you're already feeling that pain of that risk transfer coming down. They're going to want to be added as an additional insured on your policy, hold harmless, waivers of subrogation, 30-day notice of cancellation, and they're just passing the liability straight down the line to the lowest person on the totem pole, and that kind of stinks. But that's what's going on out there. And that cycle has been going on for about 3 or 4 years, so therefore most of the people that are buying insurance policies have already been hit with that dynamic, and therefore rates are now flat. So it took a while to get there, but that's what's happening there. In the professional world, there was a couple professional industries, legal services and some banking. Those rates are down 2% as well. And the reason why is it's just that the claims activity has not been there across the footprint. So therefore, the rates are starting to drop a little bit. But we subscribe to a source called Market Scout, and they provide every quarter an update of where all the rates are going, from the auto policies to crime policies to bonding, et cetera, all the way across. And they're taking 245 insurance companies, compiling all the results, and that's where these percentages are coming from. So we just wanted to let you know that. By the way, the highest increase per line of business in insurance right now, would anybody have a guess what that would be? And more importantly, what's driving it? Any guesses at all? Insurance guys? Cyber's relatively new. We're going to talk about that later. Relatively new. Everybody has a cyber exposure. You just don't know it. It's commercial auto, driven by texting. And that's why up 4%. And so all the underwriters in the auto space are now trying to make sure that you have a cell phone safety policy in place, a full-blown fleet safety program in place. They're really hitting us hard. I was out on a large commercial account just the other day. They had 2 vehicles. Their premiums were in excess of $250,000 because they had property and liability and a lot of other things. They had 2 vans. That was it. The underwriter asked 10 questions about those 2 vans. They asked 20 questions total. And I'm like, why are you honing in on these 2 vehicles? They don't even have a fleet. It's 2 vehicles. One of them hardly ever moves, and it's just because of the auto exposure, the texting, the allowing people that are in the company to drive the vehicle when they shouldn't be, that type of stuff. So just all we're here to do today is just give you some knowledge about what's going on in that marketplace. And we could sit up here all day and talk about the capabilities of our agency and what we do and how we're different than others. But Keith and I decided we want to take a little bit of a different approach, right, Keith? And
Right.
Set up there.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions in particular, maybe to their industry and something that they've seen, either the rates have gone up in a specific category, or they've gone down, or they've stayed flatline? Does anyone have any questions for us in regards to that? Okay.
All right, we're going to dig into a couple just topics. These are going to be like 5-minute to 7-minute modules of just things that your agent probably doesn't tell you about. And I apologize to the insurance guys in the room because I'm sure you guys do tell all your customers this stuff, but we want to educate a little bit. And we're going to start with the property section because everybody can pretty much determine they understand property insurance because it's something tangible that you can touch, whereas liability, it's something that you can't touch. So we're going to start on the property side. I hope some of you people are business owners that actually own buildings, and this will become pertinent to you. If not, maybe in the future as your companies grow and you start to own real estate and property, that'll become more pertinent to you. So we're going to talk about first on the property side. Actually, we're going to start with a trivia question first. And we'll award a $25, is it $25, Keith?
25 bucks, yep.
All right, to the person who can guess this. And this is a tough question, but no Googling, all right? There was an invention made in 1702 in Philadelphia, and it has to do with property. And it was by Ben Franklin and others. He doesn't get the exact credit for this invention, but he invented something to prevent fire spread. So just think about that, and then if you come up with the answer, we'll reward you with a gift card at the end of the presentation. If that question is too tough, we have a much easier one. So just we'll check it out at the end. I gave a presentation to a bunch of experienced insurance people. They couldn't answer it, so we'll see what you guys can come up with. Looks like a smart group here, so we'll see. Okay, all right. On the property policy, it's pretty self-evident, right? You buy a property policy, a fire happens, you collect the money. Basically, that's how it works. Pretty simplistic. But there are three in it, so you view that as a good thing because you have an asset that you want to insure, and if it gets blown over by wind, it catches on fire, it ends up in a flood, it's damaged to some extent, you are compensated. That's a good thing. Everybody can pretty much say, hey, somebody broke into my building, stole all my stuff, I had insurance, I get paid. That's a good thing. But there are three things out there that we want you to be aware of that a property policy can actually go against you, and they're all severe. We just want to point these out to you, and again in a 5-minute module. The first one is the dreaded co-insurance penalty, and it's very simply you want to did over should it?
Yep.
Okay. We just want to bring this to your attention. If you guys buy a property insurance policy for a building you own, and you buy it and you do not insure it for the adequate limit of insurance, you're now in a penalty phase, and you're going to be hopping upset when the claim happens and you don't get what you expect to get out of the policy. We just want to let you know what this all means, especially if anybody has any rental homes or flipping homes, own commercial real estate. This is a big deal. Can you guys see that? Did over should?
Did over should, and then this is 100,000 over 200,000.
Maybe, I can't see should there, Keith. Maybe double that up. There you
Over.
go. Basically how the policy works, and your agent should tell you this, if you buy a policy on a building and it's worth 200,000, but you opt to insure it for 100,000, and this could be replacement cost, it could be actual cash value. Doesn't really matter. If you purchase it and you do not buy adequate insurance, you're now into a penalty phase at the time of a loss. So let's just say, for simple cowboy math, that the building's worth 200,000 to replace, and you have 100,000 on it, and the building burns to the ground. Very simple scenario, could easily happen. At the time of the claim, you will not get 100,000, which is the policy that you paid premium on, and then the policy declaration says you have 100,000 on it. You're going to get the percentage of what you did carry compared to what you should have carried. So that 100,000 will be docked 50% in a penalty phase. You're getting $50,000, and you're going to be really mad because you paid for a policy for 100, but you're getting 50. And you're going to be calling this guy and that guy saying, "What'd you do to me?" And it becomes excitement and opportunity time, or what we call E&O insurance. So that's why as insurance agents, we're always out there trying to make sure you have the right amount of coverage. The premium difference to actually insure for 200 compared to 100, it's never proportionate to, oh, it's double the premium. It doesn't really work that way. There's other equations that come into how the premiums are set. So it's disproportionate. Sorry about that. It's disproportionate that way. So just want to let you know that that's a perilous position to be in if you don't insure to value. The second area in a property policy, and there's three major ones that can really impact the way that your policy would respond if you had a property policy on a building. This is the big one, most common one. The second one is if the building ends up in a vacancy position at some point or time. Perhaps you're moving to a new location and you're going to move out of one and you're waiting for a tenant to come in on the second one. Or if you own a bunch of rental homes, which we see this all the time, and they lose a tenant and they don't get one for 3-4 months, it's just the market isn't, allowable for a tenant to come in there. Now you're in a tough position because the vacancy portion of the policy, if you read deep into the language, and we're insurance nerds, so we do this for a living, unfortunately. We dig into the policy, you basically have 60 days of vacancy. So on day 61, your coverage is reduced substantially. And we see a lot of claims throughout the year where the owner of the building, the business owner, did not notify anybody that the building was vacant. A claim happened, they turned it in, no coverage for that event. And that stinks. So here's how this works. You have 60 days. At day 60, if you don't, anytime in the 60-day window, if you know that you're going to have trouble filling that space, contact your agent. They can ask for a vacancy permit, which the insurance company will either say yes or no on, depending on the conditions. And if they say yes, then you have your coverage is whole all the way through. The vacancy permit does not cost anything. It's just a yes or no underwriting decision. Some carriers try to make a little bit of a charge for it, but technically it's a free endorsement to add to your policy. And it just says, in good faith, we're trying as hard as we can to fill this space so it's not vacant. Okay? If that doesn't happen, at day 61, you no longer have vandalism coverage, water damage coverage, sprinkler pipe breakage coverage, and several other coverages that you no longer have at day 61. So those are null and void. Vandalism is the big one because a vacant building will tend to be vandalized. They're going to break in, try to steal the copper piping out of there, and you're going to be in a tough position there. The fire and the wind damage, which you'll still have, is actually reduced by 15%. So you'll get a 15% penalty just because the building is vacant. So again, if you own any buildings and you ever get in a vacancy position, now or in the future, just remember, I know I only have a limited time period where I can have full coverage, and then I'm docked a penalty there, okay? The definition of vacancy, by the way, is 31%. So if the building is more than 30%, well, you have to occupy more than 31% of the building by square footage in order for the item to provision to kick in. So a few of the insurance carriers, Westfield, who is a local company here, they've actually reduced that down to 11%, which is great because it really helps out the consumers like you that are buying insurance on your real estate properties. Okay? Any questions?
Guys good?
Okay. The third one was much more simple. It has to do with fire protective safeguards inside your building. If your buildings have sprinklers, fire alarms, smoke detectors, etc., those elements that will help detect fire and prevent fire and mitigate claims. If for some reason that you have those in your building and you shut them off because either you don't want to pay the fees that go with the servicing of those throughout, you've just voided the coverage in your policy. You can call in and ask for an exception on that, and they'll generally give it to you. If you have, if you're going to upgrade your system, say you're building a sprinkler and you want to get a better sprinkler system in there, you call in, they say, okay, we'll give you a month, and then you have a month to do that. So those three areas in a property policy, which is generally something that is very good. You think of, hey, I got this property policy, my building burns down, I'm golden, this is good. I'll get a check and I'll be reimbursed, indemnified to where I should have been prior to the loss. These three areas are the bad things inside of a property policy, okay? Okay. Anything else, Keith, on that?
No?
You want to add? Great, all right. We'll move on to the next topic. We talked a little bit about insurance to value on the building, the did over should provision. The new thing that's out there right now, and we've just had 3 insurance carriers hit us with this, is that they now want you to be insured to value on your contents, your stuff. So if you don't own a building, you're leasing it, and you have stuff in there, they want to make sure that is now insured to value. It's always been part of the deal to be insured to value on that item as well, but nobody really paid any attention to it. If you had $50,000 of stuff in there, computers, inventory, desks, chairs, computers, whatever, and you had a claim, they pay you $50,000. If you actually had 100, they're like, hey, it's your stuff. You didn't have enough, so here's 50. Now they're hitting you with the exact same co-insurance penalty that's out there. And you may ask yourself, why are they doing that? Why are they nitpicking so much? It's my stuff. And the reason they're doing that is they can't get enough rate right now. The insurance companies have gone and increased building values over the last 5 to 6 years, and now those buildings are becoming overinsured, where if it was, you should have had 200,000 on it, they're actually making you carry 300,000 on it, and now if they have a claim, they got to pay that out. So they can't really take much more value increase, which will take your premium up. So they're now hitting on the contents. Travelers, which is the big red umbrella, they were just in my office the other day, and Keith and I sat in a meeting with them, and they said they bought this software program that it'll put in their, one of their network marketing. The network marketing person, they have that SIC code in their system. They'll tell you exactly how much stuff you should have in your office. How do they know that? Tables, chairs, computers? I mean, it's a professional office, right? So they are now looking at SIC codes, doing smart intelligence, and telling you're going to have 100,000 of stuff in there. Well, the network marketing person here might just say, hey, it's just me, and I got $10,000 worth of stuff. I got more at home than I have here because I work at home a lot. They're wanting you to carry 100,000 of coverage. So the reason why is they can't get enough rate, and that's what's driving that. So we're just making you aware of some of these items so that you can, as you negotiate your way through the insurance world, just give you some tips on that, okay? Keith, anything?
Any questions from anyone?
Okay. All right, we got 2 more topics, then we'll go to Q&A. So we're moving through here. Somebody out here brought up the word cyber liability. Everybody out here most likely will have a cyber exposure. And I can almost guarantee you, if any of you are business owners, you probably don't have a cyber policy. Does anybody own a business here and has a cyber liability policy at all? You do? Wow, very impressive. Oh, okay. Insurance guy? That's funny, our agency's been around since 1859. We just bought our first cyber policy 2 years ago. And I'm an owner, principal of the agency, and I had to talk my partners into buying it. I didn't want to buy it. And we have thousands and thousands and thousands of records in our system. And I'm like, we got to have some protection here. Oh, no, we're good. All stuff's up in the cloud, and we got backups. And I'm like, So we ended up buying a policy. It was relatively inexpensive we have revenue sales of 7.5 million, and I think our premium was $2,000 for our cyber policy. And it's cheap. But it was pulling teeth to get my other partners to agree to buy this policy to protect us for $1 million of coverage. So I want to talk a little bit about cyber and what it means. To have a cyber breach, there are 6 key fields that are out there. I believe it is if 3 of those are breached, it becomes an official breach. So the obvious ones are social security numbers, dates of birth, names, addresses. And there's the 6 key ones that you would think of. I don't know them off the top of my head. If you have a laptop that's stolen and that material is on there, you now have a breach. And every single state in the nation has different rules on what you have to comply with, and none of them are the same. The government's working on trying to get them all to be uniform, but at the end of the day, Massachusetts is a tough state to have a breach in. Ohio is relatively calm. California, tough state. Every one of them has different requirements. But the general consensus of what you must do if you have a breach is you have to notify everybody that was breached. And that's where all the cost is at. You also have to give them free credit checks for 1 year. And it would behoove you, depending on how out in the open you are in the marketplace with your business. For example, the insurance guys in the room, they're going to need to do some PR work to say, we breached, we've got it fixed, something in a newspaper. If it was Target, which was the biggest one ever a few years ago, they had front page or full page ads in almost every major newspaper back then to say, hey, we've been breached and we're going to make it right. And we're going to monitor your credit and we're going to let you know what happened. And so that's expensive as well. Inside these cyber liability policies, all those expenses are covered. You're going to get some PR, you're going to get your notifications, you're going to get forensics that figure out who did it, why they did it, and where the data went. All that's built into it. So generally, you'll see limits starting at about $500,000 up to $1 million, and then the Targets of the world are carrying $100 million limits of coverage because they're big targets, if you will. Okay. Most of the insurance companies, the small regional carriers, will offer up for pennies on the dollar $50,000, $25,000, $100,000 limits, and that's good. If you look at your policies and you have those, they're more data breach than anything else, take them because they're generally really cheap, and that's a good starter way to go. But if you have tons of records, legal services, banking, if you have those records, you're going to need a big boy policy starting at around $1 million, and that premium will be between $3,000 and $5,000 probably, depending on your revenue size. They price it off revenue, so that's where that's going to be. Ours was much cheaper because we had some safeguards in place, and we negotiated the heck out of it with multiple carriers to drive the price down. So that was a little bit on the cyber liability policy. One number to remember, that if you're looking at how many records you have stored as somebody else's with those 6 key fields in it, the average cost of a breach to get through the process and rectify it, to make everybody whole, credit checks, notifications, PR work, it's $220 on average per record. We have, Keith, how many records we have in our system? 25,000?
At least, yeah.
Take that number times 220, that's probably, what, 10 million? Who knows what that math is? I went to a state college, so I don't know. But anyways, we can't buy enough insurance, so we bought a limit to get us started. In case we have a small breach, we can rectify and not take too much damage here. Out in the marketplace, insurance guys, step in if you want to. This is a hard sell. Very few people want to buy it until they've been breached, and then they want to buy it, and then the rates go high. So, because you got to explain what happened and what you've done to fix it. And the underwriters are sympathetic, and there's a lot of space out there in the marketplace for that. There's a lot of people offering the coverage, so you can readily get it. It's just at what cost. But very few people buy it. We offer it to almost every customer, and they say, "No, I'm good. I'm good," and that's okay. If you get a scare, then it's when you go, I got to buy something. Even if it's the little $100,000 data breach that they tack on to your policy. On your business owner's policy or whatever, that's still good. At least you have something. You're not first dollar on everything, because what happens if you have the $100,000 small limit on your policy, you have the insurance company coming in to back you and give you advice and consultation on how to handle that situation. If you're a first dollar, you're on your own. You're going to have to hire somebody to come in, and that's more expense on top of more expense. So cyber liability is a little bit perilous out there. Any questions on that?
What's the biggest reason you get back from companies you're dealing with that say no, we don't want to work with, they just think they have enough security layers? Or?
Yep, they say we got it backed up and it's off premises. So yeah, we back it up every night and then we store it off premises. But they don't think about how many of their salespeople have laptops. If my laptop is stolen, it's right there, so don't steal it. We're in big trouble because there's a lot of stuff on that computer. And do I leave that in my car when I'm pumping gas and I run in and grab a soda? Yeah. Do I leave my car running while I'm in there? I'm not supposed to. Yeah, you all do it too. So, it's if I lost that laptop, it's tough. And now you got your iPads, your iPods, it's all there. So.
Plus, you can't control your employees clicking on a link to download a virus. You just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's you can never have enough safeguards in order to protect.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Inside of some of these, the way these policies are structured, there is virus hacking and extortion coverage. If somebody contacted you and said, hey, you give me this or I'm going to steal all your data, those are built in there as sub-limits. You don't get the full $1 million limits most of the time, but you'll get 25,000. The best thing you get out of those is the insurance company jumps in on your side to negotiate on your behalf, and that's what you want. As a business owner running a nutrition store, you might say, I don't want anything to do with this. Just, I bought a policy, take care of it, make sure I'm whole. That's what you really want, and that's the reason it's set up that way. Okay? Yes?
If I'm using a CRM that's stored, that's
that has all of my information stored in it. Where does the liability fall if something were to happen with that? Would it be pushed to that company, or would somebody come after both of us then at that point? I guess, how would that work?
Yeah, so you're talking cloud environment?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. Basically, we just had this situation where we have a large manufacturing company at about 50 million in sales, and they bought the cyber, but they have everything stored in a cloud third party with a contract and everything, beautiful way it's all set up. And so they went through that process. And we instructed them as consultants, we said, well, get a copy of their policy to see what limit they carry. Because I was curious that if they have all that data, you know, my $50 million company plus 20 other ones just like it, on all their records, how much do they have? And that company only carried 25 million. So we said, wow, man, that wouldn't be enough. If it was that cloud environment was completely breached, yeah, it just wouldn't be enough. So we told them you should probably recommend to that third-party company to buy more limit. They didn't want to. So they said, what do we do? And I said, you should buy one from on your own. So you now have your own additional layer on top of what they have. So by chance that they're breached and just your data is taken, okay, you have their 25 million or pieces and parts of that, but you also have your own. So we went to, that's what we did, that's what they did, and we let them know, we got a copy of the contract and the $25 million limit that's sitting out there, and we went to the insurance company for our customer and said, there's 25 out there already, they want their own 5, just as extra protection, belts and suspenders type stuff. Can you cut the rate down? And they did. So knowing that there's another 25 sitting out there, and that's kind of how we did that, so, go ahead.
Sorry, so then kind of stepping above that then, if that other, they go back to that company then, to make sure that they carry?
Yeah, they'll try to, yeah. But you know what, if they're not carrying any, they're doing that in a defense mechanism because they don't want to get sued or brought in. If I was a business owner and I saw the contract and it showed that they didn't carry any, I'd be leery about even signing that contract with them to use their services. But if they don't carry any, they're doing it on purpose because they don't want to be brought in. And their contract's probably going to say, you're holding us harmless, you're going to waive any subrogation, you know, we have no coverage for you, you're on your own, so you know that. That's probably what the language is going to say out there, okay? All right, we got about 5 minutes, then we'll do some Q&A. Let's talk about something that's new in the marketplace. You guys are most likely all purchasing, if you're a business owner, your work comp insurance through the state of Ohio, Bureau of Work Comp. Is that right? Most of you guys? Okay. Okay, there's been big changes this year in how that works. We just want to educate you a little bit because a lot of the times you're dealing with the state of Ohio yourself. You're not dealing with a retail broker or agent because we don't sell that product. You buy it through the state of Ohio. You're on your own. So I wanted to end on this topic so you have some education on what that means, okay? And Keith and I worked on one of these just the other day, but I'll go ahead and take this if you want. Is that you
Yeah.
cool with that? Okay. So basically how it was is a year ago, before March of this year, you went to the state and bought a work comp policy on your own. And all the rates were pretty much the same unless you end up in a pool or a group of some sort. But that was your only option. And then if you had anything outstate of Ohio, an office, satellite office, if you're a trucker and you're traveling out of state, you're pretty much at the mercy of having a really bad insurance work comp event. Well, they've changed that now in Ohio as of March of this year. And you can now extend your policy to pick up any outstate work that you guys may be doing. So if you have an employee that's outstate, a salesperson that's traveling out of state, a trucker or a delivery person that's moving out of state, you know, you have an exposure that has been cleaned up. Being here in Cleveland, it's a little tough to get out of state from this location. You know, it's 151, you know, 100 miles that way, 250 down. But if you're in Toledo or Cincinnati, you're right on the border, this is a big deal. So the outstate portion of that has changed. What has happened is an insurance company, Zurich, has stepped in and has become a buffer to pick up all the outstate coverages that you may have if your company's big enough to expand out of state. Before, you're really at the mercy of having your work comp policy in Ohio respond and potentially getting sued. And because what happens is every state in the nation has different benefits for when you're injured at work for workers' compensation. So if you're a trucker and you're traveling all over, maybe a 500-mile radius of your base, and you get hurt, you're going to want the benefits in the state that's most beneficial to you. Everybody would want that. And as an employer, you want your injured employee to also have the best benefits available to them. But you're stuck with just Ohio. That's all you could get. And a lot of times, the Ohio situation would get pretty antsy. The insurance guys can talk for this. If you're outstate too much and you're collecting Ohio work comp, they didn't like that. They wanted you to get a separate policy to pick up your outstate stuff. Well, Zurich has stepped in, and they now will allow you to pick up all that outstate stuff. The problem with it now is it's only been a few months. Their rates are triple what everybody else's are. It has solved the problem, kind of, but the rates are really high. Within a year or two, they're going to start to drop because they're going to start making money, and it's published. So there'll be peer pressure to drop it down. Plus, other markets will jump in other than Zurich, and it'll start to drive those rates down. One of the things that could happen in Ohio is they could go to a complete private arrangement instead of a state-driven arrangement. That has been on the docket multiple times, and it's failed every time. In fact, the last few times it's failed miserably, and I don't understand that. As a business owner here, if it passes and it becomes a privatized event, you can now buy work comp for your employees and yourself from 30 different insurance companies. Could you imagine what the rates would do if you had to pick from 30? Competition's going to kick in, and the rates are going to drop, and you guys would all benefit from that. So this is not a political slogan by any means. It's just educational here. I'm confused why they don't do that, but the step that they took in March did help the situation, and it's just going to get better and better. So as you guys grow your companies and you start to expand outside of the state for travel or salespeople or whatever the case may be, this is a good thing that's going on in the marketplace for you. Okay. So any questions on the work comp side of things? One other item on that, the underwriting for the work comp for anything in the Zurich program that's out there, they ask like 4 questions, underwriting questions, and that's it. They don't really care what you do, if you have a safety program, how your culture of your company is. They just ask 4 basic questions, and they were so sophomoric, it was surprising to me. But that's how they started off, and I'm like, well, wow, man, they're just not underwriting this stuff. And then I realized their rates are triple what everybody else is. So they're like, just get it in the door, and that's what the mentality is. So that'll improve, in the next year or so. But one of the questions was, have you ever been late? Have you ever been in a late payment on your work comp policy? Yes or no? And that was it. If you answered yes, I was, and they're like, yeah, you're kicked out. So they're just trying to get the people that are going to pay their bills at triple the rate. So again, not a political endorsement by any means, but kind of is, I guess. So anything you want to add, Keith?
No.
Okay.
You want to open up some Q&A?
Yeah, what we could do here, we got 10 minutes maybe. We can end it early if you want, whatever the case may be. But if you want to just fire off any questions at all, there's other insurance people here. They can jump in and answer as well. What insurance rates are doing in my industry, or whatever's going on. Any questions whatsoever, we can do that. Go ahead.
On the cybersecurity side, are the insured? Sorry about that. On the cybersecurity side, are the insurance companies asking any questions regarding of what steps you have in place to prevent a breach from happening?
They do.
Or are they just firing out a policy and not really paying attention?
They ask some questions. To get a big boy policy, which is we say that's $1 million policy, those supplemental applications that we fill out as brokers and agents, they're like 5-6 pages. I mean, they ask a lot of questions. And for us, not knowing your business, we got to come out and sit down with you and say, let's talk about your cyber. What are you doing to protect it? Do you have firewalls in? Are you backing it up? Are you using third-party services? Do they have a policy? How many people have laptops? It's a 5 or 6 page application. So we either come out and sit down with the business owner and answer the questions, Or if the company's big enough, the last 2 that I sold, I just said, well, who's your IT guy? Because I got to talk to him, because I'm going to ask all these questions. And the business owner, who actually it was a school system, he's like, the CFO of the school says, I don't know any of that. So I'm like, IT guy. And so I met with him and took 20 minutes. We knocked it down and signed the application, and away you go. And one other thing about the application, it has to be signed by an officer of the company. It's a warranty. So if you lie on it and you signed it, it avoids coverage. So it's why it's pretty important to meet and get those answers all down. So, but some of the apps are 6 pages and some are 2 or 3 pages, but they're asking those the questions you think that would be. So, yes. Anybody else? Yes.
Going back to the co-insurance,
Mhm.
they don't apply residential also.
Residential, as she asked, does the co-insurance penalty we went over, does it apply to residential as well? When you say residential, are you meaning your personal home or rental stuff? Yes, it does. In that space, though, it is really, really hard to be underinsured in that space, because they are just, I don't know if you have your own personal auto or personal home policies, they go up every year. My policy, which I have, I'm like, man, I hope this thing burns down, because I'm like, I don't know that much on it, and that's a huge number. And I'm like, sweet. So they have really increased those every single year. It's hard to be underinsured there.
The contents also?
No, they haven't got there yet. They're starting on the commercial side with the contents. And actually, that's Travelers that's leading that charge. But I can tell you, within a short time period, 3 or 4 other companies will jump in to see that trend. They're going to see Travelers getting more premium because the values are higher, and they're going to be jealous, and they're going to want that. So the funny thing is, I insured this condo building in Toledo, and it's a fortress. It's an old warehouse that they completely gutted. It's concrete everywhere. They knocked all the windows out, just shelled it, and then they made high-end condos in there. And when we first picked that policy up a couple years ago, it was insured for $10 million. And we just renewed it, and that's why it kind of came to my mind. This is a condo. Just the shell is what we're insuring. Everybody that owns a unit inside the condo has their own insurance. So it's just the shell. Well, that shell is now just renewed with Travelers for $14 million. And why are they doing that? They're thinking, this concrete building, which is sprinklered, you're not going to blow that thing down. I mean, a tornado could hit that dead on, and you're going to bust some windows. It's not going down. If it catches on fire, you're going to scorch out a couple units, maybe a whole floor, depending on how hot and it's not coming down. And then, the other perils that are out there, it'd have to be hit by a plane, for it to really to be damaged. I mean, and that, it's just very, very unlikely to happen. So they're now getting the premium for 14 when it used to be 10. So that's why they're now hitting on the contents of side, because they can't go to 15 now. People will start saying, no, that's way too much. So. Okay.
I just wanted to add that you probably can attest this too. Basically, people complain a lot about, hey, my house appraises for $100,000. I paid on the auditor site, it says it's worth 120, and you're charging me for 130 or 200,000 dwelling. We can't make up those numbers. Like he was saying, you're not going to run into co-insurance problems much on that, because people want to insure it for less than they probably think it costs to replace it. People don't get that a lot, and I've spent a lot of time with people explaining that if your house is gone, it's going to cost way more to rebuild it from scratch than it does for what you're probably going to sell it for, where it's on the auditor site. So anyways, just a comment.
Yeah, great. No, it's great additional commentary on that, because it kind of stinks when you have to, you bought it, you got great equity in it, you stole it from the realtor, you've negotiated your butt off, you got a great deal, and now that you're being forced to insure it for 2.5 times what you thought it was worth, and that's the way it is. And there's no negotiation in that space with underwriters. You're gonna carry 220 on it, and you're like, shoot, I owe 40, and I got 40,000 equity when I negotiated with the realtor. Why do I got to do that? So that's kind of how it works. Okay. All right, we're wrapping up. Anybody have an answer on the trivia question that we had?
I
No, close though. I think she was up first. No, he did invent the lightning rod. Very good. Did you Google that? He did invent the lightning rod, yes. Any hands? Go ahead.
Cinder blocks?
Nope. Nope.
I thought it was the lightning rod.
The lightning rod? Anybody else?
Baking powder.
Baking soda, no. I think he did invent baking soda, did he?
Fire extinguisher.
Nope.
Fire?
Nope. Any other questions?
Bricks?
What?
Bricks?
Nope. I thought you said something else. Because what I thought you said was the answer. It's a concept, it's not a thing, so that's a hint.
What was the question? I was like,
Oh, sorry.
I guess I'm like, I'm dying to know.
Okay. The question was, in 1702, in that range, in Philadelphia, Ben Franklin and others, although he didn't get full credit for it, there was a group of people that would meet in this area, and they invented something that was one of the most important insurance inventions, concepts, if you will, ever, to prevent fire.
You just said some reason for thought that was this was the concept of like bricklaying.
You're really close.
Building code? Firewall. Insulation.
Firewall's really close. He did not invent that, though. What?
Fire stop.
Fire alarm.
What do you mean by fire stop?
It's a concept.
Well, in the fire protection industry, when you're doing sprinklers and such, anytime you penetrate a wall, it has to be.
Yeah.
Fire stop.
No,
wall.
I thought you meant something else.
Flame retardant.
Nope. Nope. Okay. I don't think,
Google it. I have 30 seconds.
I checked before I had my, if you Google it, you won't find it.
Oh.
Nope. It's, you can't touch it. How's that?
CO2.
Nope. Maybe use a marker? So we're going to go to the second question, but here's the answer. Okay, here's a building. Here's a building. I hope that was informative. Oh, here's the thing.